Hey everyone, what's going on? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're diving into the world of Python, but more specifically, we're going to be looking at the top 5 libraries that you should be using to boost your coding efficiency in 2024. Now, if you've been coding in Python for any amount of time, you know that it's not just the language itself that makes it so powerful, it's the libraries. Libraries are essentially collections of pre-written code that you can leverage to add all sorts of functionality to your projects without having to reinvent the wheel. They're like superpowers for your code, allowing you to do incredible things with just a few lines. In this video, we're going to explore 5 of the most popular and versatile Python libraries out there. We'll cover what they are, why they're so awesome, and how to get started with them. Whether you're a seasoned Python pro or just starting out, stick around because this video is packed with valuable information that can take your coding to the next level. So let's jump right in. Alright, kicking things off at number 1, we have Pandas. If you're doing any work with data in Python, chances are you're going to become very familiar with Pandas. Pandas is a library that's built specifically for data analysis and manipulation. It provides you with these incredibly powerful data structures, namely the series and the data frame, which make working with structured data an absolute breeze. Now let's talk installation. The easiest way to install Pandas is using pip. Just open up your terminal or command prompt and type in pip install pandas. Hit enter and pip will handle the rest. Once you have Pandas installed, you can import it into your Python scripts using import pandas as PD. This is the standard convention and it just makes it a little bit easier to reference Pandas functions later on. Now let me show you just how easy Pandas is to use. Let's say you have some data in a CSV file. With Pandas, you can read that data into a data frame with just one line of code. We can use pd.read CSV, your file's CSV, and just like that, your data is neatly organized in a data frame. From there, you can start performing all sorts of operations. You can filter the data, sort it, group it, clean it, you name it. Pandas has got you covered. It's super versatile, and it integrates seamlessly with other libraries like NumPy and Matplotlib, which we might talk about later. If you're dealing with data in Python, Pandas is your go-to library. Moving on to number 2, we have TensorFlow, a giant in the world of machine learning. Developed by Google, TensorFlow is an open-source library that's designed for building and deploying machine learning models. Whether you're interested in image recognition, natural language processing, or any other flavor of machine learning, TensorFlow provides a flexible and scalable framework to bring your ideas to life. Installing TensorFlow is very similar to Pandas. Just open up your terminal and run pip install TensorFlow. Keep in mind that TensorFlow can be a bit more resource intensive, so you might want to make sure you have a decent internet connection. Now, TensorFlow can seem a bit daunting at first, but once you grasp the basics, it's incredibly powerful. At its core, TensorFlow allows you to define computational graphs, which are basically like blueprints for your machine learning models. These graphs consist of nodes and edges, where the nodes represent mathematical operations, and the edges represent the flow of data between these operations. This might sound a bit abstract, but visually, it makes a lot of sense. TensorFlow provides you with a high-level API called Keras, which makes it much easier to build and train these models. You can think of Keras as a more user-friendly interface for interacting with TensorFlow's powerful engine. With Keras, you can create complex neural networks with just a few lines of code. It handles a lot of the low-level details for you, allowing you to focus on the bigger picture. TensorFlow is a vast and constantly evolving library, so definitely check out their official documentation for in-depth tutorials and examples. Chapter 3. Flask, build web applications with ease. At number 3 we have Flask, a micro-web framework that makes building web applications with Python incredibly enjoyable. Now you might be wondering, what's a micro-web framework? Well, unlike larger, more monolithic frameworks, Flask takes a minimalist approach. It provides you with the essential components you need to get a web application up and running, but it doesn't force you into any particular structure or way of doing things. This makes Flask incredibly flexible and easy to learn, especially if you're new to web development. Installing Flask is, you guessed it, as simple as using pip. Just run pip, install Flask in your terminal, and you're good to go. Once you have Flask installed, you can start building your web app. Flask uses a concept called routes, which essentially map URLs to specific functions in your Python code. So, for example, you can define a route for your home page, another route for an about page, and so on. When a user visits a particular URL, Flask will execute the corresponding function, which can render a template, process data, or do whatever your application needs to do. Flask is known for its simplicity and ease of use, making it a fantastic choice for beginners and smaller projects. However, don't let its size fool you. Flask is also incredibly powerful and can be extended with various extensions to handle things like databases, authentication, and more. Chapter 4, Selenium. Automate your way to efficiency. Coming in at number 4, we have Selenium, a library that's a little different from the others on this list. Selenium is primarily used for web browser automation. What does that mean? Well, it means you can use Selenium to control a web browser using Python code. You can automate tasks like filling out forms, clicking buttons, scraping websites, and much more. This can be incredibly useful for a variety of tasks like testing web applications, automating repetitive actions, or even just extracting data from websites that don't have a dedicated API. Installing Selenium is pretty straightforward. You can use pip as usual by running pip install Selenium. However, there's one extra step. Selenium requires a browser driver to interact with a web browser. These drivers are specific to each browser, so you'll need to download the appropriate driver for your browser of choice, whether it's Chrome, Firefox, or something else. Once you have the driver downloaded, you need to make sure it's in a location where Selenium can find it, either in your system's path, or by specifying its location in your code. With Selenium set up, you can start automating your web browser interactions. You can write Python scripts to control almost every aspect of the browser, from navigating to different pages, to interacting with elements on those pages. Selenium is an incredibly powerful tool for anyone who spends a significant amount of time interacting with web browsers. It can save you a ton of time and effort by automating those tedious, repetitive tasks. Chapter 5, Requests. Making HTTP requests. Like a pro. Last but not least, we have Requests, a library that makes working with HTTP requests in Python an absolute pleasure. Now, if you're not familiar with HTTP requests, they're essentially the way that your computer communicates with web servers. When you visit a website, your browser sends an HTTP request to the server, and the server responds with the content of that website. Requests simplifies this process, allowing you to send various types of HTTP requests, such as get, post, put, delete, and more, with just a few lines of code. Installing requests is, as you might expect, as easy as using pip install requests. Once you have it installed, you can start making HTTP requests. Let's say you want to get the content of a web page. With requests, you can do that with just one line of code. Simply use requests, get your URL, and requests will handle sending the request and retrieving the response for you. You can then access the content of the response, the status code, the headers, and a bunch of other useful information. Requests also makes it super easy to send data with your requests, set headers, handle cookies, and more. Whether you're building a web scraper, interacting with an API, or just need to send some data over HTTP, Requests is your go-to library. Wrapping up, choose your libraries wisely, and there you have it, our top 5 Python libraries to boost your coding efficiency in 2024. We've covered a lot of ground here, from data manipulation with Pandas, to machine learning with TensorFlow, web development with Flask, browser automation with Selenium, and making HTTP requests with Requests. Remember, choosing the right library for your project is key. Think about the specific problems you're trying to solve, and then explore the libraries that are best suited for those tasks. Don't be afraid to experiment and try out different libraries to see what works best for you. This video should clock in at just about 9 minutes, making it a quick but valuable watch. If you found this helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more Python tips and tutorials. Until next time, happy coding!